Romance Dawn Arc Part 3. This shows Koby and Luffy sailing through the water, and Koby is yelling at Luffy because Luffy has absolutely no navigation skills. Koby begins to tell Luffy once again all about Zoro, about how insane he is, how much of a beast he is, how boss and whatnot and stuff. They get to Shell's town, and it seems that everyone in the town is scared of Zoro's name, but they're also scared of Captain Morgan's name, the only captain in this town who leads and commands the Marine base there. They get up to the Marine base, and Luffy and Koby climb up to the fence and look over to see Zoro tied to a cross, so I guess they're crucifying him or something. They just see him sitting there, and he looks half dead. He looks up at them. Koby gets scared and falls onto the floor. Then it shows a ladder being propped up against the giant stone fence, and a little girl climbs over the fence and runs over to Zoro with some onigiri and tries to offer it to him, but he tells her to leave. And right on cue, Captain Morgan's son Helmeppo comes out to, I guess, flaunt and what's the word I'm looking for? Boast about catching Zoro and telling him about how he's not going to survive the full month. Zoro tells him he's already survived 3 weeks, only one more week and he'll be free. The reason that Zoro had been captured in the first place was because Zoro was eating at this diner that Helmeppo barged in with his evil-looking dog and started harassing the people, telling them that he's going to eat free, and the dog starts eating off people's plates, and the dog comes after Zoro, and Zoro just takes him down. Helmeppo gets mad, and Zoro just takes down Helmeppo, and guess Helmeppo just arrests him because he made him look like a bitch. Helmeppo looks down at the girl who's offering Zoro the onigiri and takes one for himself, but then spits it out, telling her that the onigiri needs salt, not sugar. She tries to tell him that she'd rather onigiri be sweet, and he starts stomping all the onigiri into the ground. Then tells one of the Marines to throw her over the fence. So the Marine walks up, tells her to duck and cover, and chucks her over the fence. But Luffy grabs her and saves her from the fall. After Helmeppo leaves, Zoro looks up to see Luffy standing there, asking him to join his crew. Zoro says no, and asks him to hand him the onigiri that's been stomped into the ground. Luffy seems confused, but he does so. Zoro eats it, starts coughing a little. Luffy tells him that he told him it would probably be bad, but Zoro says, "Tell the little girl thank you, it was delicious." It skips forward to Luffy and Koby back at the little girl's diner, and Luffy tells the little girl that Zoro said it was good, and she starts to explain that the only reason that Zoro was captured in the first place was because he was helping her, like I explained earlier. Then you hear crashes from the inside of the diner, and it goes in to show Helmeppo once again raising hell in there. Luffy gets pissed at the way he's treating the owner of the diner and everyone in there, so Luffy punches him in the face. Before that, Helmeppo explains that he's tired of waiting for Zoro to die, so he's decided to execute him tomorrow. I think that's what tipped off Luffy to punch him. After Luffy punches him, Helmeppo cries off like a little bitch and goes to cry to his dad, who is standing on top of the Marine base, telling all the Marines who are standing there to help erect this giant statue of him on top of the base. While that's going on, Luffy's down where Zoro is, trying to convince him to join his crew and offering him to set him free. Zoro says, "No, I only have a week left. I'm going to prove that I won't die by surviving." But Luffy tells him that Helmeppo is going to execute him tomorrow, and that upsets Zoro. So Luffy says that if I let you go, you'll join my crew. Either that or you get executed tomorrow. What'll it be? Zoro gets a little upset, but smiles and tells him okay. So Luffy goes off to find his swords. Luffy hears commotion going on at the top of the tower, so he decides to shoot up there and see what's going on. But he kind of overshoots it, grabs onto the side of the statue, and breaks it, causing it to fall off the building. Axe Hand Morgan gets upset, wondering who the hell this guy is. Helmeppo looks at him, tells him that's the guy who punched him. And Axe Hand Morgan, of course, gets pissed off. Luffy sees Helmeppo, grabs him, says, "I need you for a minute," and starts running inside the building. Captain Morgan tells the other Marines to chase after him, and the chase ensues. Luffy asks Helmeppo where Zoro's swords are, and Helmeppo replies that they're back in his room, that you've passed them. So they run back, and he goes inside the room, sees 3 swords standing there, and is wondering which one's his. He goes to ask Helmeppo, but Helmeppo is knocked out. So he grabs all 3 and jumps out the window. At that same time, Captain Morgan and his men are standing there about to shoot down Zoro and Koby, who is apparently trying to set Zoro free. But right before they start to fire, Luffy lands right in front of it and takes all the shots. And then you see his body stretch back in tiny places where the bullets are, and then he shoots them back. Zoro asks what is he, and he explains that he's a rubber man. Captain Morgan deduces that he had eaten a devil fruit. He had heard rumors about them, but he didn't know whether or not they were true. Captain Morgan tells his men that bullets won't hurt him, so go and slice him up. Right before the men get there, Zoro tells Luffy to hand him his swords, and in an instant, Zoro had stopped every single man with his swords, and tells them if they move, they die. They immediately start to cry. Zoro explains that he wants to be the greatest swordsman in the world, and he'll join Luffy's crew to realize his dream. But if Luffy ever stands in his way of achieving his dream, that he will kill him. Luffy tells him he'll expect nothing less from a crew member like him. Morgan's men explain that they are no match for him, and Morgan is about to attack them when Luffy runs off and starts to attack Captain Morgan. Morgan blocks him with his giant axe hand and explains that a civilian with no rank is no match for him. He is Captain Axe Hand Morgan, commander of the Marines. And Luffy says, "I'm Luffy. Nice to meet you." Then the fight between Morgan and Luffy begins. It's really not a fight. I mean, Luffy pretty much pounds him every time he tries to attack. I mean, it's obvious Morgan's got power, but when it comes to speed and skill, it's really no match for anything that Luffy can bring to the table on an off day. While Luffy has Morgan on the ground, repetitively punching him in the face, Helmeppo is standing in the background with a gun pointed towards Koby. Helmeppo tells Luffy not to move or he'll shoot Koby, so Luffy starts slowly walking towards Helmeppo. Luffy walks up to Helmeppo and punches him in the face, and right at that moment, Axe Hand Morgan's bringing down his axe, and Zoro slices right through him, right when it skins the top of his head. At the sight of Captain Morgan falling to the ground, the Marines start to rejoice in happiness, which makes Luffy kind of confused. Apparently Morgan was that bad of a leader. Go figure. Then it flashes forward to a strange orange-haired girl snooping through Captain Morgan's stuff, and she finds a safe behind a barrel. She finds it open, sees a map in it, and seems pretty happy. Says it's the map to the Grand Line, but she opens it up, and it turns out it's Buggy. Apparently he had stolen the map and left a fake to boast his success, I suppose. And then it shows Zoro and Luffy back at the diner. Zoro is happy because he's finally been able to eat after 3 weeks of starvation, but he seems a little confused that Luffy can still eat more than him. Zoro asks who all is in Luffy's crew, and Luffy explains that it's just him and Zoro. Zoro looks really confused, and then he asks where's their ship, and he points out to the window of this tiny little dinghy. Zoro looks a little depressed. Then it shows a group of Marines heading inside of the diner. The Marines look at Luffy and thank him for what they did. Luffy saved them from Captain Morgan, I guess, and they're willing to overlook the fact that they're pirates. But it's the fact that they're pirates that they have to leave immediately. They look over at Koby and ask if he's a part of their crew. Luffy decides to do the actual smart thing. You may not know it if you've only watched these episodes, but what he did was actually really smart. He starts telling the Marines of the story of how he was a slave boy for the Alvida pirates and everything, and Koby punches him, so Luffy starts beating him down, and the Marines stop him and say, "There's no way he's a part of your crew. Now get out of here." Koby explains how he wants to be a Marine to the Marines, and they say that he's a little young, but he says that he's just motivated. He wants to be a Marine. So one of the Marines in the background goes, "We need a new chore boy." So they take him on. It shows Luffy and Zoro heading off into the sea, and at the shore it shows Koby standing there. He salutes them and thanks him for everything that they've done for him, and they thank him. They say, "We'll see each other again soon." And as they look back, the rest of the Marines are standing behind Koby and they salute him as well. And everyone lives happily ever after. And that's the end of the Romance Dawn arc. Finally! Stay tuned for the Orange Town arc, or as I like to call it, when the show actually starts becoming difficult.